Okay, everybody, welcome back to my channel. Been doing a bunch of work on my car. I'm putting on subframe connectors, torque boxes, making my own subframe connectors and torque boxes. But with the holidays going on, I really haven't had time to edit the 3-hour video, or actually it was about 4 hours of footage. So I think what I'm going to do is I may break it down in 3 segments, like frame rails, torque boxes, inner fender well, braces. Not really sure. But anyway, I wanted to kind of touch on something that's been kind of uh, I don't know. I can't really say it's bothering me, but something that has been coming up a lot lately, and it involves car guys, basically, I guess. And all those new regulations, which regulations, my opinion, have pretty much killed the car market in the United States. And all this is my opinion. So a guy sends me a picture of a quote unquote new Plymouth Roadrunner that, and I don't know if this is a concept car. I don't know what it is, but my thoughts on it is that it's probably fake. And for one, there is no Plymouth anymore, so I guess I don't see that they're going to bring back the Plymouth division just to make a Plymouth Roadrunner. But I wouldn't doubt it. At this point, anything's possible. But to explain how I feel about all this stuff, I kind of got to go back in history a little bit and talk about where I believe all this has come from. Now, as car guys, and us older car guys, we remember a lot of this, or we read about it. I guess I'm not a I'm, I'm not a baby boomer, so I'm a Gen Xer. So I really wasn't around for the first parts, but I was definitely around for a lot of the history of this, and to watch to see what has gone on since mid '60s. Back in the '50s, I guess there's a lot of arguments of when muscle cars actually started, and you know my thoughts on it is that it actually started in the '50s. You had big block Hemi cars, two 4 barrels. Yeah, they weren't the 426 Hemi, but that doesn't matter. You had, by the late '50s, you had 348, 409 Chevys. So my thoughts on it is that the muscle car era actually started in the '50s. Now, a lot of people credit the GTO because it was a mid-sized car, and with a big engine. A lot of people say big block, but we all know that Pontiac doesn't have a big block. They have short bore or small bore, large bore engines. They're all the same block for the most part, from what I understand. 350 Pontiac, and yeah, I understand that there's been differences through the years, but a 350 Pontiac and a 455 are all the same block. They credit the GTO as the first mid-size car that had a big block in it, or a large engine that was actually to be sold to the public. Now, they've been making race cars before this uh, that were small cars, big engines, for racing only. This time it was the muscle car era started when 1964, when they could actually buy it. You could go to your Pontiac dealer and say, hey, I want this car, and you could buy it. Uh, Throughout the years, they've come up with little things. You know, Chrysler was really good at coming up with keywords or whatever that would kind of attract the youth market, like Scat Pack. Scat Pack was a package that was started I want to say it was 1968, right around there. And Scat Pack was a package that you could get on your car. You know, if you had a Scat Pack car, had a Dana 60, with I believe 411 gears. That's a 4-speed. You know, the I've got an RT that's a track pack car. That's a Dana 60 4-speed with I want to say 354 gears. If it was a 411 gear, it'd be a Scat Pack car. So that's kind of where Scat Pack came from. You got a little B emblem that went in the back window if it was a Scat Pack car. A lot of people put them in the back window anyway, even if it wasn't a Scat Pack car or not. But they came with, you know, more. All of them came with bigger brakes, but you know, all your muscle cars. Anyway, so getting around to what I'm trying to say, this Roadrunner deal. A lot of us car guys really get tired of the fact that they keep, you know, they want to do away with the past. We don't want nothing to do with the past. We want to get away from it. But yet they want to use all the key words from the past that we hold true. We hold these as part of the old culture. You know, Chrysler doesn't care about guys like me. I'm not going to go out and buy a new vehicle at all. I mean, I'm not going to go buy an EV vehicle or whatever. And this all comes from the government too, because the government started regulating so heavily that they ruined the car market. And it all started with a book. This obviously my opinion. I'm not trying to get political, but anytime you get the government involved in anything, you're going to ruin it. But so you kind of got to get a little bit political. So the government started regulating car manufacturers, and it came out, you know, as, oh, we got to do this for safety, whatever. Unsafe at Any Speed. That was a book that came out by Ralph Nader, and he writes this book, and then all of a sudden we got to start looking heavier into this, and you know they've been looking into it before that, but that was the key book that I feel started a lot of this snowball effect. So then all of a sudden, they came up with oil shortage, gas shortage. We're going to run out of oil in 10 years. Obviously, that's not true. We didn't run out of oil in 10 years. But what it did was the government forced all these policies against the car manufacturers. And I believe the insurance companies were involved in this too, because they wanted to slow the cars down. So they started all these regulations that really choked the car off. And by 1970, 72, all this stuff started coming in pretty heavily. So to me, the actual muscle car era goes from 1964 to 1971. That's it. After 1971, yeah, you could get a big block car, but it was, in my opinion, choked off. It wasn't what it was, I guess. So Chrysler quit making the Hemi in 1971, the 426 Hemi, the Gen 2 Hemi. They sold the rights to the Hemi to Keith Black. Even if you, I don't know today because I've never really paid that much attention, but I know back in the 80s and 90s, the Top Fuel dragsters with Keith Black would have the half moon shape where you bolt the starter on, because they sold all their dies and the rights to the Hemi to Keith Black. Well, now let's fast forward to the Viper. Dodge decided that it was going to kind of get back into the performance thing, and this was kind of starting to become a very exciting time for us car guys, because they'd taken a beating for so many years. We had, the car guys, and the cars had become cheap and unreliable. Things would break on the interior because they're just full of plastic. The 70s, 80s were not great car years. It's not. I mean, did they make some cool cars? Sure. I like the 83 Monte Carlos, the G bodies. I like the Daytona Chargers, even though they were a Mitsubishi engine. I had a couple of them throughout the years. I had an 86 Daytona Turbo Z, 88 Daytona, Pacifica. They were fast cars for what they were, but it wasn't a great time in the American car industry. So as a car guy, we had taken a beating for quite a while. So they come into the Viper. Back to the Viper. They want to put a 426 Hemi in it. Well, they go looking. Well, we can't, because we don't have any of the dies left, and we sold the rights to Keith Black, so we can't even make it. Well, why would we do that? Well, because we weren't going to be in muscle cars anymore. We got out of it. We didn't want anything to do with it anymore. So they ended up putting 2 cylinders onto a small block, made a 10-cylinder. Then fast forward to the pickup coming out, and all of a sudden it's got a 5.7 Hemi in it. And we all remember the commercial. That guy with a 68 Charger on the back of a trailer. I think it's 68. I guess I don't remember the commercial that well, but for some reason it strikes me as being it was 68. So he takes off, and these guys in a Duster, that thing got a Hemi in it? Yeah. And then he takes off and blows their doors off, and comes to the next stoplight. He goes, "You mean the Charger? Because yeah, that's got a Hemi too." And they're just, we all remember that commercial, at least us guys. And man, that was like, wow, the Hemi's back. This is awesome. Yeah, it's a small block, but it's a Hemi, right? Well, the hemispherical head is not quite the same as the hemispherical head on the Gen 2, and some people argue that no, it's not really a Hemi. But they definitely wanted to use the Hemi badge. That was their marketing, to use the Hemi badge. Now you go back and you look at things throughout the years, and I always said the Super Bee was a true muscle car that it never came in a four-door, never came with a small block. They made it from 1968, 1971 was the last year of it. It was the height of the muscle car era. It was a true muscle car. Unlike the Roadrunner, and believe me, I love the Roadrunner. I'm not trying to put down the Roadrunner at all. But the Roadrunner started in 1968, and then in 1972, 73, through out there, it started to get kind of washed down. It became a small block car, more of a decal package, heavier or whatever. And then they stopped making it, I want to say 1980, 81, right around there. By that time, it was a Volare and had lost all of its muscle car appeal, that what I would consider a muscle car appeal anyway, from back in the day of when the Roadrunner came out. When the Roadrunner came out, it was an in-your-face kids muscle car, and you'd have your toolboxes sliding around in the back trunk, so there'd be dents coming out the quarter panels because you're always trying to make this thing better, faster, whatever. That was my thoughts of the Roadrunner. Also, my thoughts of the Super Bee. The Super Bee was the same line as the Roadrunner. It was just the Dodge version of it because Dodge wanted to grab a hold of that youth market the way Roadrunner did. So all of a sudden, they come out with a Charger four-door, and then they turned the Charger, they made a Super Bee. And I have to tell you, this really started to irk me. Now I have to look back at, oh, okay. Now I can't say that the name Super Bee is a true muscle car name, because now they've made it into a four-door. To me, a four-door is not a muscle car. Four-door is a sports sedan. Maybe. Not a muscle car. I'm not saying a four-door can't be fast. That's not what I'm trying to say. But that's not what I think of as a muscle car. So now I got to go back to the Corvette. The Corvette RT. Made it 67, 68, 69, 70. Boom, done. That was the last. So they were the only 4 years they made the Corvette RT. So there you go. There's one true muscle car, the Corvette RT. Maybe even say that with the GTX, but I'm not sure on how. I know they made the GTX in 1971. I'm not really sure what happened to it after 1971. I'd have to go back and look. So that's the first thing that Chrysler did that started to hit home and say, what the heck? You know, what's going on here? Then they developed the Scat Pack. And I'm sure that the Scat Pack is kind of the same as it was. I'm not really even that familiar with the Scat Pack. Boy, it was a high performance package with the Challenger. But again, Chrysler was done with all this. They didn't want anything to do with it. And then all of a sudden this was cool. Why? Because old muscle cars, old Mopars, were starting to become worth money. And so they wanted to grab they wanted to grab onto that terminology. That is my opinion anyway. Then they they had already used RT, which RT stood for road and track, and I get it. I mean, they've used RTs. I remember there was an Aspen RT. Not a big deal. That one really didn't strike me that bad. But the Super Bee one, the Scat Pack one, that started to bug me a little bit. And then they decide they're going to go into electric vehicles. Fine, whatever. They're not going to make the Hemi anymore. Okay. Seen this play out before. Okay. but they come out with a 6-cylinder Charger. They call it 6-pack. Okay, 6-pack to me means 3 2-barrel carburetors, and that was the only time that Super Bee actually stole the limelight away from the Roadrunner. Was the Roadrunner was a 6-barrel and Super Bee was 6-pack. Everybody started calling the Roadrunner a 6-pack Roadrunner. Well, the 6-barrel Roadrunner. That didn't bother me all that much, but it bothered me when they put it in an electric vehicle and call a 6-cylinder a 6-pack. That starts to bother me. And then they come up with this idea for a pickup, and they call it the Ram Charger. Well, Ram Charger started back in the early, I want to say it was back in the 50s. It started back in the 50s. It was a drag racing team program of Chrysler engineers that were drag racing. They called themselves the Ram Chargers, and they made their own Ram induction system on this car. They called it High and Mighty. It's kind of a cool looking car. It was definitely out there. And then in 1962, 61, 62, they came out with the long cross ram, and that went into a Dart, and it was nicknamed Ram Charger. And then you go further into it, and you know, the N96 cars had a Ram Charger system that it said, you opened up the hood on a Dodge and it said right there, Ram Charger. Underneath on the ductwork for all the air to be forced down into the carburetor through the hood scoots. And so when you opened it up, it said Ram Charger. And then when they got rid of that whole deal, then they turned it into a pickup term. I want to say 72, 73, right around there, you got the Ram Charger pickup. And I'm not even sure what that package meant. Now, Ram Charger is a vehicle that is driven by an electric motor that has a 6-cylinder that sits on top of the electric motor to charge the old batteries that drive the motor. And it's a Ram pickup with its own charger and its own exhaust. It'll go 500 miles. 500 miles, big deal. My Ford pickup with a 302 in it will go over 500 miles with a full tank of gas. So I don't understand, the whole electric pickup thing with its own charger when you got a 6-cylinder with all the emissions and everything else, the exhaust and all the stuff that you have to deal with for a gasoline-powered engine, and then you have all the stuff you have to deal with for an electric engine. It just, to me, it makes no sense. But it is what it is. But they called it Ram Charger, and to me, that really doesn't resonate well with me either. It just, so I guess my thoughts on this Roadrunner is, I really think it was fake, but it doesn't surprise me if they would do this, because the Roadrunner was an iconic muscle car from back in the day, and they're still trying to steal that limelight. I feel Chrysler is, and it just pushes guys like us. It just makes us more and more upset at Chrysler, which, I mean, I understand they don't care what we think. Like I said, we're not the guys that are out there gonna buy one of these Ram Charger pickups. But anyway, that was kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know what you guys think about all this, but I've seen some other guys talk about it, and to me, that Roadrunner looked like a weird-looking Camaro-looking thing, and didn't even look like anything I'd ever seen. But then I probably would have said that about the Charger Super Bee too. Somebody would have showed me a picture of a Charger Super Bee back in the 80s or whatever. I probably would have said, yeah, that's never happening, you know. But anyway, it did. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on this whole Chrysler. And Chrysler's not the only one doing it. Ford's doing it too. I mean, they got now a Mach E Mustang, some electric Mach E. They're trying to glam onto these names that were uh, famous or some synonymous. I don't know, keywords, you know, that we remember as car guys from back in the day. You know, the Mach 1 Mustang or whatever. Uh, now it's Mach E. If you haven't heard the word Mach Mustang for many, many years. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. I'm going to get back to working on this today, and I ran out of welding gas while I was welding, so I had to wait for that. And of course, it's the holidays, and nothing's going as planned. But making frame connectors and torque boxes, my own torque boxes, and inner fender well stiffening. So that's going to be coming up here. And like I said, it may be a 3-part video because it's a lot. It's a lot of. I was starting to go through 4 hours trying to edit 4 hours down to an hour. And it was almost... Anyway, that being said, you guys all have a good day.